Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, once again, there's been some controversy surrounding Halo Infinite. As it turns out, you can actually get banned from Halo Infinite online services, like matchmaking, and at the same time have your Forge map that you spent hours, if not days on, just banned from your account and console. This latest controversy started on Twitter when Commando414 brought to everyone's attention that a Halo Infinite forger called the Scorpion got banned from Halo Infinite matchmaking and had his map completely banned for what's most likely being too violent or too much gore. But what kind of violence are we even talking about? Well, you can see here in this footage of his map that the most gory part is just dead bodies placed around the map with fake pools of blood and fake dismembered limbs here and there. That's basically the extent of it. Yes, it's simulated violence. That's probably more violent than anything we've ever seen before in any Halo game. It is a battle scene with some fairly realistic looking dismemberment, but we're certainly not talking like Gears of War style dismemberment with blood and guts flying everywhere. So what's the problem with that then? It's not really that bad in my opinion. You're probably thinking that what you saw in the video wasn't that bad either. And like I said, in my opinion, it's not. But Michael Shore, also known as Forge Lord on Twitter, the Forge lead designer at 343, he chimed in on this controversy and basically confirmed that the reason behind the ban was along the lines of keeping Halo Infinite's T rating for a family-friendly experience. But it's not entirely as simple as that. There's more to it than just the T rating, and he does go on to explain it in more detail, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And just to be clear, Michael Shore isn't in charge of these decisions to ban certain content, and these policies aren't up to him either. He's just a messenger relaying this information to us. So, like I said, it's not up to him what goes on with these decisions. Alright, so Forge maps fall under the category of user-generated content, or UGC. It's stuff that's not part of the main game itself, because it's created by users, and therefore it's not typically covered by the ESRB ratings. You may have noticed on the ESRB ratings for a lot of games, especially multiplayer games, that online interactions are not included as part of that rating. They're not rated by the ESRB. Well, that applies to Forge maps too. So what's the big deal then for 343? Why worry about content on Forge maps if it's not actually going to affect the ESRB rating, the T rating that Halo Infinite has? Well, Michael Shore does go on to explain that while the T rating doesn't cover UGC, the guidelines behind the T rating, such as minimal violence, suggestive themes, crude humor, blood, simulated gambling, and strong language, those guidelines were probably used as the guidelines for 343's own content moderation. Simply put, it's not really about going to great lengths to make sure Halo Infinite stays a T-rated game, but rather it does seem like it's about making sure Halo Infinite continues to have a sort of T-rated atmosphere to it, even if it's not mandated by the ESRB's T rating. Now, to 343's credit, they have stood by the M rating of Halo MCC. All games on the Master Chief Collection are M-rated, including Halo 4, which I've seen some people remember incorrectly. So recently, 343 added Steam Workshop support for MCC, and so far I haven't heard of any extreme cases of content moderation on there. The official Halo mod tools make pretty much anything you could think of possible, and so far, to my knowledge, I haven't heard of anyone's mods on Steam Workshop getting taken down for being too violent, or anything else along those lines. So, that does seem to suggest that 343 moderates content on Halo, based on what the game's ESRB rating is, even if it's not necessarily mandated. And, since Halo MCC is M-rated, they're not as strict with moderating that game. Meanwhile, since Halo Infinite is T-rated, they are more strict with what's allowed with user game content. But still, why is that even a big deal anyways? By comparison, Halo 5, which also had a T rating, wasn't moderated as strict as Halo Infinite was. I've seen some pretty crazy things made in Halo 5's Forge, and it was all pretty much A-okay back then. So why the increased strictness all of a sudden? Because this isn't the first major incident either. If you remember, about a month ago or so, maybe 2 months, someone else got banned from the entire Forge mode for like a few months, for several months actually, because his map contained references to marijuana. Well, maybe it's not necessarily stricter. According to Michael Shore, this incident wasn't due to 343 actively patrolling all the forge maps out there. Somebody reported that map to 343, and the content moderation team simply acted on that report based on those guidelines of the T rating. So it's possible that these policies were around even back during Halo 5, but we just haven't heard about it as much, or maybe they weren't as active in moderating the content back then, but the policies might have been around already. So now that we've covered all that, it's time to discuss the elephant in the room, and that is how it's quite clear now that 343 they're obviously trying to appeal to a wider audience with the Halo franchise by intentionally implementing policies to essentially make it more family friendly, hence the T rating. I still remember the first time it was revealed that Halo 5 would have a T rating. I remember the explanation back then was that Halo 5 was such a demanding game for the Xbox One, so to the point where it couldn't handle including extra particle effects like blood splatters. And there is some truth, though, to the Xbox One hardware being underpowered, and therefore certain compromises were really made in Halo 5 so the game could hit that 60 FPS performance. So back then, despite speculation already that Halo 5 was intentionally toned down to meet the T rating, and that was denied by 343 or others in the community. I think I don't remember who exactly denied it, but there were denials about that. But despite all that, it was plausible that the lack of blood in Halo 5, among other things, was due to hardware limitations. But now with Halo Infinite, it's become more and more apparent that it probably wasn't a hardware issue back then, and rather more of Microsoft wanting Halo to start appealing to a wider audience. That's not necessarily a bad thing that Microsoft wants to do that, but I feel there were other ways they could have done that without toning down the game significantly. I mean, it's so toned down now by the T rating to the point where in a lot of ways, it's worse than what was done with that special rare version of Halo MCC that was created to get approval from the Chinese government. Other franchises like Call of Duty have managed to appeal to a wider audience without toning things down across the board. So I just wish 343 and Microsoft would take a different approach with expanding the audience of Halo. But anyways, this whole policy of keeping every aspect of Halo Infinite T-rated through content moderation does truly feel like a major clampdown on the game. The whole release of Forge was great, it was exciting, but it really does seem like it comes with a lot of strings attached now that we know that you can get banned for having certain content that doesn't fall within a T rating. And that brings me to one more point I want to address. Remember the first incident I mentioned where someone got banned from Forge entirely for several months just because their map had a reference to marijuana in it? Well, the fact that you can now get banned from an entire core game mode entirely is pretty crazy in my opinion. I get it's a live service game and all that, so most of the core game modes being always online and requiring an online connection is the norm, and therefore you can get banned from those. But it's just so unprecedented that you can get banned from entire game mode now. On the Xbox 360 Halo games, even if you got console banned, you could still access all the core game modes. Just not matchmaking or online multiplayer for obvious reasons, but at least you could still do things like split screen co-op and Forge offline if you were totally banned. But I guess that's just the reality of modern games these days. That's not, exclusive to Halo. You can get banned from campaign on Call of Duty, I'm pretty sure, because there's an always online requirement now for Call of Duty games. And I totally understand decisions like these aren't always up to the developers like 343, and they often go higher up the chain to the publisher like Microsoft, but it's just unfortunate that this is the way things are now. But of course, throughout most of Halo history, a lot of situations like these would have been unimaginable, even somewhat in Halo 5. I think it's fine that Microsoft wants to broaden Halo's audience, but it'd be great if they did something like release some games here and there that are M-rated again, like a flood horror game or something like that, while other games here and there can be T-rated as well. Basically, a variety of games that still appeal to a broad audience overall would be ideal, in my opinion. Anyways, before I get too much into a rant about this, it's time to wrap up this video. So, what do you all think about the situation? Do you think 343 and Microsoft is going too far with toning down Halo content, both in-game and user-generated? Or is it time for Halo to stop chasing that T rating? Or do you think the bans were justified and it's time to accept that Halo needs to have a broader audience and things like this are just going to be part of that new reality and are necessary too? I definitely would like to hear what everyone thinks of the situation in the comments below. It's been quite a controversy on Twitter right now, so definitely like to hear what you all think about it. But anyways, I would also like to hear your thoughts on this video and, you know, anything else we can check out or look into. So as always, let me know all this stuff in the comments down below. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe for all the latest content, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.